Welcome back to another episode of Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation, right here on Verde Valley TV and KVNA 104.7 FM. I'm your host, Philip Catafamo. We've got a great show in store for you this week. Later in the show, we'll be joined by Coconino High School girls basketball coach Cassie Schrader to discuss her transition as a coach from JV to varsity. We'll then speak with Flagstaff High School boys soccer coach Mike Jenkins to discuss the senior leadership on his team and what it's meant to the team this year. On the other side of this break, though, we will be joined by Bradshaw Mountain High School boys basketball coach Blair Hillig to discuss his program's recent turnaround. We will also, at the end of the show, get you caught up on what happened during the AIA Executive Board meeting earlier this week and what it means for the winter season, the upcoming spring season, and the next fall season. All of that and a whole lot more right here on Off the Bench. Don't go anywhere.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in Northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation, right here on Verde Valley TV and KVNA 104.7 FM. I am joined now by Bradshaw Mountain basketball coach at the varsity level. That is Blair Hillig. Coach Hillig, welcome onto the show.
Hey, thanks, Phil. Appreciate you having me.
We are happy to have you on. We've had a couple Bradshaw Bears and on the program before, and we figured let's get that basketball coach on here because right now the Bradshaw the Bradshaw Bears are playing quite some good basketball this season. Only for now, only one loss on the season, a loss to Moon Valley. But Coach Hillig, your team is playing very, very well this year. You took over the program. For those of you who do not know, Coach Hillig started as the freshman coach over at Bradshaw Mountain High School and took over the program at the varsity level in 2018. Coach, where was your journey coming from where you were to get into Bradshaw?
Well, I started coaching and teaching in Tucson. I was actually in the Marana School District at Mountain View High School, and I was the head baseball coach there actually for 7 years. Did coach basketball as well, and then decided to move up to Prescott area. I had 4 little kids at the time. And I had some family up here, so we wanted to get out of the heat and out of the big city life. And so we came up here, and I started coaching the freshman baseball and basketball team about a year later.
Okay. And as I mentioned, Coach Hillig taking over the boys basketball program, turning that program around from 2-16 the year before to 11-7 in his first season as the varsity head coach. A big turnaround for the Bears, Coach Hillig. What did you implement in your first season to sort of help make that transition from a two-win program to a 10-plus win program in your first year?
Well, I don't know that I changed that much. You know, we had some good kids in the program. When I was a freshman coach, we had a really good group. My last year as a freshman coach, we were 17-1. So, you know, a lot of it was just good timing, good timing with having some good kids. And the one thing is just let them know that we care about them and that we're going to work hard for them and just expect the same from them.
You and Coach Haltom, the girls basketball varsity coach, when you stepped in as the varsity head coach for the boys program, kind of put together a co-ed basketball program for the younger kids, more of a camp, I should say. I really should stop saying program, but it's a camp. It is a co-ed camp for girls and boys. Unable to do it this year due to COVID, looking to bring it back next season, or I guess this summer potentially. But you guys are obviously still doing the camps. How does having that, I know that this camp does not bleed into the high school levels, as these kids from when they're, third grade or whatever could move out of state, move out of county, move to a different school. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be a Bear at the end of their, their middle school season. But how important is it to sort of have that youth base of, we've got a couple kids here. They've got they're very talented basketball players. We know they're going to stay in the county. We know they're going to make their way to Bradshaw. So more specifically, just I guess more in general, Coach, how important is it to have a good youth program that translates at the high school level?
Yeah, it's really important. The development, their talent is one thing, but also just getting them connected with the high school kids and getting them excited about that, wherever they play, hopefully they stick around and they become a Bear, but it's still a good experience for those kids and, getting some development and having fun in the summer, giving them something to do. It's great for our kids as well. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, and as you just mentioned, a lot of the Bradshaw Bears themselves do help participate in the camp, helping out the kids at the younger levels. What benefits would you say there are for the high school kids, kind of breaking down those fundamentals and helping out the younger kids?
It's funny. Some of the kids that do it, you wouldn't expect them to blossom. You see their personalities come out. It's like, wow, that's a surprise because he's not like that with his peers. But then they get around young kids and they're just awesome. So it's just a great experience for them to work with kids, to have kind of a give back to the community feel. But some of them really find out that that's something they enjoy. Working with younger kids and being in a leadership role. So they really they like it. They have fun. They look forward to it every year. And so it's just a great experience.
In a lot of ways, Coach, not only are you helping to develop future basketball players, but maybe future coaches, as you just mentioned, a few of your guys really enjoy working with some of these kids at the lower levels and possibly could translate into a coaching career a little later down the line.
Yeah, that's for sure. You never know. And like I said, sometimes it's a surprise that you see some personalities come out and you think, wow, that kid would be a great coach. So you never know.
What are some of the things that the younger kids struggle with that if any parents or any young basketball players happen to be listening to, what are some things maybe to focus on in your early developments as a younger basketball player? And what are some of the things that people should be working on at that level?
Dribbling, that's one of the big things. Kids need to be able to dribble and shoot. Those are great skills. If you can shoot and dribble, you got a chance to play. But the biggest thing that they really struggle with is really understanding the nuances of the game, and that just takes time. It's hard to teach too much of that in a camp because it just comes with experience and playing. But we try to make it so they have fun with games and get that competitive spirit flowing. And then, all those things come along with time.
Again, we were speaking with Bradshaw Mountain High School boys basketball coach Blair Hillig. Coach Hillig, as I mentioned, the Bears this season playing some really good basketball right now, sitting relatively at the top of the region this year with Coconino High School. This team is led by two seniors in Carter John and Nathan Summit. What has their impact been to this program this year?
They're huge. Obviously they can score and they do a lot of things. Nate's a 6'8" kid, so he also rebounds and block shots. And Carter this year has become a much better leader than he has in the years past. And he's become a lockdown defender. So obviously those things are huge for us. But just the leadership that they both bring is something that, you can't teach. Carter played a little bit of varsity as a freshman, so, he understands it. And Nate started as a sophomore. So, they've been through all this. They love it. They understand that it's, you can't get too up or too down. You just got to keep battling and be ready every night.
How important is it to have that leadership with your top players going forward for the rest of the chemistry on the team?
It's vital. I don't know where we'd be without them with that. We know we do have some young kids as well. And with just a little bit of varsity experience and, it's a little different form at practice. It's a big jump from the freshman to JV, and it's a bigger jump from the JV to the varsity. And they don't understand the intensity of some things. So those guys leading the way is really important.
As I mentioned, Coach Hillig started as the freshman coach over at Bradshaw. And did you get an opportunity to see Carter and Nathan develop at those lower levels before they made it up to you here in the varsity program?
Yeah, I did. With Nate, he lives in Dewey, so he didn't go to the Humboldt elementary and middle school. So I remember one day I was in the gym and I heard a team practicing in our small gym. Our gyms are connected. And I looked over and I saw this big 6'5" kid at the time. I was like, who in the world is that kid practicing with all those little guys? So I had to find out who he was. And turns out he was going to be joining us at Bradshaw. So He was a little bit raw as a freshman, but you could see that he was going to be a stud, because he loved the game. And he was a kid that already had some skills. Usually at 6'5" as an eighth grader, you can't dribble or shoot too much, but he was already on his way. And Carter, have actually known Carter since he was a little guy. Him and my son played on the same, little guy basketball team when they were 8 years old. So I've known Carter for a long time, and it's been a pleasure watching him mature.
I think I was about 5'2" when I was started out high school. I'm 5'11" now. I can't imagine being 6'5" and being maybe about 11 or 12 years old and then being 6'8" now. But you got some real talent on this squad, Coach, as I mentioned with Carter John and Nathan Summit, excuse me. Who else has really been stepping up for you guys this year?
Well, our little point guard, Josue Luna, was on the JV last year, and he dressed for the varsity, but he didn't get a lot of time. But he's a kind of a star in the making. He's kind of our motor. He's a hard worker, really sees the floor really, really well. He's a good assist guy, but he defends the other team's point guards and just kind of wreaks havoc. He's doing a great job for us. And then we got a couple other senior guards that are doing their job. They're filling in their roles. They take care of the basketball, and that's Tyler Stiegel and Anthony Folkstadt. I've had them since their freshman year, and same deal. They've just developed, and the big part with them is they really understand what they need to do for us to be successful. And sometimes it's score, but a lot of times it's not, because like we said, Carter and Nate kind of take care of the bulk of that. And then we got another sophomore this year. He's about 6'3" kid who can really score. He's not averaging a lot of points right now, but that's Ben Wilder, and he's going to be a really good scorer in the future. And then we got some other guys that just really fill their roles well.
Coach, when you look at successful basketball teams, one of the first that comes to my mind are the San Antonio Spurs. I know there's a big jump between high school and the professional levels, but you talk about guys filling roles. What I've always loved about the San Antonio Spurs, and a little bit more recently with the Golden State Warriors, is they do a great job of finding guys who can fill roles, guys who aren't necessarily going to give you 25, 30 points a game, but guys who play well defensively, guys who can shoot threes, guys who can facilitate. Would you say that your team definitely has that sort of capacity to go, look, you're in the second unit, but you do this really well and you help round out this team more? Would you say that your team is a lot more rounded than teams in the previously?
Yeah, I think so. And part of that is to get them to buy in to not only be good in that role, but to relish it, and want to be a star in their role. And their time is coming. Like I said, Ben Wilder, he's used to scoring. Last year at the freshman level, he would probably average 20 points a game, and he's used to that. Now he's scoring 4 a game, and he's okay with that. He's going to go rebound. He's going to do some other things. So it's so important that they buy in and accept it, because, if they can be a star in their role, I tell them all the time, there's one guy that's putting the ball in the basket, but there's so many other things that are going on that are just important that nobody talks about, but we know as a team, so if they buy into that, all's good.
Coach, you talk about buying in, and I got to ask, you guys are sitting right at the top of the region right now. Is this the year where Bradshaw starts to cement their role at the top of the region alongside programs like Coconino and Flagstaff?
Well, that's tough. Yeah, I sure hope so. It's different in high school. You can't go out and recruit kids. So, you have to kind of change every year what you're going to do. And, next year we won't have a 6'8" guy in the middle. But I love our guys. We got a good group at the freshman level. I think they've lost 1 game. Our JV guys battle. Yep. And they're pretty good. So, if we can continue this wave, it'd be great. I think kids are enjoying playing. And it's tough right now with times with COVID and everything, but it seems like the kids really enjoy each other and enjoy being in the gym. So, that's what it takes.
Any games on the schedule that you're looking forward to? Any that you're specifically circling on the date that you're going, hey, I can't wait till we play against this team?
Well, all of them. I get equally nervous for every game. Just Monday we got Desert Edge, which is number 5 team in the state right now, and they're really, really good. We've been close the last couple of years with them, but haven't found a way to beat them. So we're hoping this is our year. But they're really good. Coconino coming up twice. Obviously, we got Prescott again. Everybody's dangerous. Last night we played really well against Mingus. The time before we beat them by 2 points, and really we're kind of fortunate to win that game. So we got to play well every night to win.
Yeah, Coach, you talk about obviously your games against Prescott. I mean, that rivalry between the Badgers and the Bears is always one that everyone likes to look forward to, very much between the Panthers and the Eagles of Coconino and Flagstaff, respectively. But to you, Coach, what does that rivalry against Prescott mean?
It's different for me maybe than some people. Coach Stedman and I are pretty good buddies. My wife is a principal in the Prescott district. All those kids, most of them I know. My son went to the elementary and middle schools in the Prescott district. So, he's buddies with those kids. So it's a rival for bragging rights, but I like when Prescott wins when they're not playing us. So it's a little bit different for me.
Yes, very much so. I would imagine when Prescott's doing well and they're not playing against those Bears, you're pretty happy. And then when they get a chance to play against you guys, you kind of want to win that one. As you talk about, you've got a very close connection between both schools. You obviously coaching at Bradshaw and having some connections on the Prescott side as well. Coach, you talk about the JV program. They're developing well. You yourself were a lower level coach. How important is that development at the lower levels with the JV program?
I tell you, it is so important, and I value those coaches so much, and they do a great job. I've got two outstanding coaches, Billy Lamb and Kai Bennett, and they're both good basketball coaches, but more importantly, they're just great leaders for kids. They do the right thing for the right reasons. They really enjoy their kids and they want great things from them. So they put in the time and they just to get kids involved and want them to continue to be in the program. That's so important. Teaching them the right way to do things. We really harp on that. If kids don't want to do it, then I ask those guys to recognize it early and either try to fix it or we kind of say, see you later. Maybe this isn't the right sport for you right now. So they do a great job for me.
Coach, we just got one more question for you. Again, we're speaking with Bradshaw Mountain High School boys basketball coach Blair Hillig. Bears are playing some really good basketball right now. Coach, moving forward on the season, where are some areas that you'd like to improve on before we head into playoffs?
Well, we've been pretty good defensively. We've kind of looked at film, and I told the guys, matter of fact, 2 days ago, it's like when I watch the film, I really think we're good at certain things in practice, and I watch film, and sometimes I see we're breaking down on some things. But defensively, we're pretty solid. We got to get a little better rebounding. We got to get 5 guys rebounding. Sometimes I think we rely on the fact that we got a 6'8" guy in the middle, and he can't.
I was going to say you're struggling with rebound. You got a guy who's 6'8" who's just got to reach his hands up there.
Yeah, but if he doesn't get 15 rebounds, we're like, Nate, what's going on? And that's not fair to him. So we got to give him some help there. Offensively, at times we struggle shooting the ball with other guys. We need to be a little bit more consistent. We talk about those roles of kids, and sometimes, they want to be such a good role player that they forget that they can shoot too and they can score. So we need to get a little bit better balance. But you know what? I think we're getting there. I really like the way we're playing right now. I love the way that, the kids just play hard, and, we can make mistakes as long as kids are playing hard.
An up-and-coming program that has been well established here in the 4A Grand Canyon region is this Bradshaw Mountain basketball team led by that man right there on your screens or that you listen to on your radios, Coach Blair Hillig. Coach, phenomenal season so far. We cannot wait to see how you guys finish out. We look forward to seeing the Bears in the playoffs and possibly contending for their shot at a 4A state title. But for now, best of luck on the rest of the season, Coach, and thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Coconino High School girls basketball coach Cassie Schrader on the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere. Off the Bench will be right back.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I am joined now by a familiar face of the program. That is girls basketball coach over at Coconino High School, Cassie Schrader. Coach Schrader, welcome back onto the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, we're happy to have you. You've gotten an opportunity to coach a few games so far this season. Your first coming up against a very tough opponent in Flagstaff High School. That was back in January. Your first foray as the varsity head coach against those Flagstaff Eagles. Of course, you're familiar with Coach Johnson. You're already familiar with the Flagstaff Eagles, but I just kind of want to get your feelings leading up to your first varsity game. How are you feeling during that week? How are you feeling leading up to the game? Were you excited? Where were you at before that game tipped off?
I was actually pretty nervous. I'm not going to lie. I felt a little bit of pressure, of course, it just being my first year and my first game coming up against, one of our toughest opponents and, just that natural rivalry. But it was a lot of fun. I felt very honored for that to be my first game, honestly, because it's just it's just been something that I've experienced, on the JV bench, the freshman bench over the years, and just being on the varsity bench is just it's like a whole different energy for sure. I was excited.
Coach, can I ask you about the atmosphere there? I know that there wasn't any fans in the stands, and I know this is a pretty big rivalry between Coconino and Flagstaff, but if you could give us a little insight about how the atmosphere was for that rivalry game on that first week you guys took on the Eagles.
So it felt a bit like a scrimmage, to be honest with you, just because of the atmosphere. The energy was still game-like, but only having like our JV, our respective JV teams in the stands, just kind of being our cheering section was just, it was very strange. But in a way, I feel like it was kind of beneficial just to kind of calm the nerves a little bit. Because, both teams, we came out fighting, it was a bit of a dogfight the whole game. And it just was, I didn't feel any nerves from them like I usually would. But I think that had a lot to do with no crowd. So it was still it was tough. It was definitely tough because, I do a lot of yelling. And I felt like I was the only person anybody could hear in the gym half the time, which was just really strange, but it was cool. It was different, but I actually, looking back, I kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, in a weird way, of course, you love the atmosphere of basketball, especially when it comes to a rivalry game like Flagstaff and Coconino, which is constantly always great games, regardless of what sport that they're playing against each other in. But, it definitely had to have been a little bit more relaxing that you didn't have such a crowded house, especially in your first game. And unfortunately, the Panthers did lose that game. But, it like you just said, it had to have been sort of kind of like, okay, well, at least it's just me and the team. There aren't a whole bunch of people here. There aren't as many eyes on me because if I make a mistake, it's my first season. So I can understand the sort of calmingness that may have come with a relatively empty gym, and maybe a little bit of the kind of the awkwardness of being the loudest person in the gym. I'm a loud broadcaster. Unfortunately, I talk at a very loud level already, and when I get excited, you can clearly hear me through a crowd. I can't imagine what people are hearing me say during the actual game, but. Coach, since then, the Panthers have been absolutely rolling 6-3 overall. I know you got some games coming up here in a little bit. Currently ranked within the top 10 in the 4A conference in total. How are you feeling about the season so far? And you got a couple games under your belt now. Are you happy with that ranking? Do you want to see the team move up? How are you just feeling overall about the performance of the Panthers so far?
I feel very hopeful. We definitely. I'm happy to be in the top 10. I'm also just happy to be here, period. But like I said, I feel like, it's not really where you start. It's really where you end up. So this is kind of where we should kind of be playing our best basketball, right at this halfway point, which I think we're getting there. They've definitely exceeded my expectations in a lot of ways. They've just gotten, more mentally tough, by the game. And that's just kind of that's been my biggest thing, especially, facing the tough teams that we have, is just kind of go out with no fear and just, play how you know how to play, how we've been working on in practice. And they've been doing a really good job of that. It's just kind of been improving. Just that mentality has been improving game by game. And that's really all I can ask for, is just the improvement in any way, shape, or form, for sure.
What about you, Coach, in terms of improvement? Like I mentioned, we're at the midway point of the season. You've got a few games under your belt so far. As a coach, how have you seen any growth within yourself as a coach from your first game to where we are now midway through the year?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I get a little bit less nervous game by game. Kind of right at the beginning, it was just kind of like, my first couple varsity games, I was kind of a little anxious about it, but it was a good anxious. And now it's just kind of like, all right, got to go in, take care of business. I kind of, they're doing all the work really. So it's kind of just my job to be, a source of guidance, a source of some type of positivity, a source of encouragement. Like we work really hard in practice, obviously. And, they have the tools, and it's just kind of me making sure that they use those tools and just, making sure that they know I have their back, whatever happens. And that's the most important thing for sure to me. And I feel like, that mentality for myself has grown, game by game as well. So I'm definitely, I'm getting into a little bit of a groove, a little bit of a less nervous groove for sure. So It's fun.
Coach, we always, whenever I've spoken with other coaches on the program, we always talk about the transition for a player to go from the JV level up to the varsity level. For you, obviously, COVID-19 has been a handicap for everybody, including yourself in your first year. But how can you speak to that transition? Was there any sort of a learning gap between you coaching at the JV level and going to the varsity level? Obviously, the pace of game is different. Did you notice any changes when you had to make that jump?
Yeah, I definitely did. At the varsity level, it's a little bit less about, teaching fundamentals and a little bit more about, having the team understand my tactical skills and everything, and how to apply the fundamentals that I've already kind of been, spending years reviewing and teaching, and how to apply them to, plays, offense, defense, just the bigger picture. And I'm not going to lie, it took me a little bit to kind of learn, where the team that I was left was in that area, even though I knew they were all in a really good spot, fundamental wise. And, it ended up just, testing me and my tactical skills, like I said, and, figuring out what the team that I was left with was comfortable with and everything. And, I was left with a pretty loaded, good group of basketball players just in general, with the seniors that are there that have been there. Even with the juniors that I brought up from JV that I've had since they were freshmen, they've obviously improved over the time that we have had in the gym, even, just due to COVID and having a lot less time. But, in that little time that we were able to have practices where we were only able to use our own basketballs and stuff, I just kind of, went over and over, just some fundamentals and just kind of improving individual skills. 'Cause that's really all I could do since they couldn't share a basketball.
Right.
And then it was a super quick jump, from, working on those individual skills to being able to share ball and doing drills and scrimmaging. It was just a really quick jump, and it kind of came at me pretty quick, but I found my groove in that area too. I'm still working on it, always learning every day, but it took a little bit for me to get used to the difference, but it's been good. I'm in a good place where I was in a really good spot to transition pretty easily otherwise. But either way, it's been a lot of fun. It's been good for me for sure.
Again, you talk about those two seniors, two of many seniors on your roster this season. You took over for Coach Reyes this year as he stepped down last year. Kiana Manulito and Mahala Long, two great centers, two great seniors for you. There we go. Just kind of two questions for you. First and foremost, what has their contributions meant to the team so far? Kiana leading the team in points. Right behind her is Mahala Long, and I do got to ask. During the Mingus Coconino game, Mahala had what I can only describe as a little bit of a dream shake down low, a nice little post move inside to get a couple buckets. So, Coach, is that something she learned? Is that something you taught her? So how has their contributions been, and where's Mahala learning these phenomenal post moves?
So Mahala's been learning those over the years. She's definitely, that's her move. That move is the one that will get everybody the first time, every single time. First time she does it, the footwork is textbook. The finishing is almost always there. Maybe not always, because she focuses a lot on her footwork, which I like, because she knows where she's at on the floor. I know that if you go back and look at that video, I did a happy dance, like the whole bench did a happy dance. It was just so textbook, so pretty. And like I said, that's her move. That's her go-to move. She works on that every single day. She's been working on it for years. Finally, her senior year, she's definitely gotten it down pat pretty much. So that's been really big, because, you don't find too many, posts her size, because she's only about, I would say, 5'8", 5'9". She's definitely our strongest big, though. But you don't see a lot of those posts that size with that kind of footwork and that kind of like court awareness. So that's just been kind of years in the making, for sure. And as for Kiana, I think that, it being her senior year and her almost basically losing her senior basketball season, which she's been looking forward to, it kind of like threw a little pep in her step, for sure. She's got an incredible will to win. She does everything she can. She's by no means is she selfish. She knows when to get her teammates involved. She knows when it's best for her to take the shot. Like, she's definitely, I've seen her grow in that area, because I've been watching her since she was a freshman also. But she just knows how to score. You know what I mean? Like, her absolute first option is to just score herself, which is what I always tell her. Like, you have to look like a scoring threat every time you catch the ball. And she does that. And she just keeps getting better and better at it. And, as long as she's improving in that area, that's what I'm happy about. And she's a great leader too. She's always picking up her younger teammates, helping up her younger teammates, and just kind of making sure, they're on the same page as her whenever we're running a certain play, an inbound play. And she's a good leader. She's definitely stepped into that captain role very, very well in a lot of ways. So I'm stoked about it. I'm happy for her too.
Very much like a Tim Duncan and David Robinson pairing that we saw in the late 90s to the mid 2000s. You've got Manito and Long. May have to change Mahala's number from 40 to 34 with her post move down low to replicate the Team Olajuwon moves. But when you and I talked at the Mingus Coconino game, you had some high praise for your JV coaches. What have their contributions meant to this program? And now that you step in as the varsity coach, how important is it for you to have a strong JV program?
Those two guys. So Chris, he's the head coach. Chris Garcia, he was with me from the beginning. Like, he was interested in the position and everything. And I kept him along for the ride the whole time. His assistant, Eric, he was kind of like a last minute get, just because I was, I had a couple people bail on me. I was in crunch time kind of. Yeah. But honestly, they're great with the girls. The girls respect them. They have all the confidence in the world in those kids, especially it's important for those freshmen too. I have 5 really good freshmen that came over to Coconino, and they just have the utmost confidence in them. They're always uplifting them no matter what. And, they have that luxury of at least 3 of them just having a really high basketball IQ for a 9th grader. They work really, really hard, and it's a small team. It's like an 8-person team. So they're on the floor a lot. So they get a lot of court time, which is super beneficial for them, especially at the JV level as a freshman. But the coaches they're just worked at schools for years. So they kind of knew what they were getting themselves into, and they know how to reach the girls. And I've made it clear to them what I expect. And, they're always asking me questions, always asking me to come to practice and, see what they got going on. And they're just, this is both of their first years coaching high school. They've been coaching middle school for years. So, it's good for them to, start with a bunch of freshmen at the JV level and, understand that competition and watching the varsity games and, taking what they see in varsity games to practice and helping out the younger girls, like telling them what they need to be expecting for the coming years. And they're just always asking me questions, and they've been doing an amazing job, hopping from the middle school to high school fence for sure. And it's quite a big line. It's definitely a big line. It's a big jump. And I think that they realized that first game in, but they've been doing a really, really good job. I couldn't be happier, and I hope that they stick with me through this, through however long I end up being there. So.
Well, hopefully, Coach Schrader, it'll be a very long time that you're at Coconino High School coaching this varsity program. Again, the Panthers currently sitting at number 2 in the 4A Grand Canyon region. They are ranked within the top 10 of the 4A conference as a whole. JV program is undefeated right now. The Panthers are looking to get a couple victories this week and continue their strong progress into the playoffs. And, Coach, we can't wait to bring you back on to talk about that playoff run that will soon be coming to Coconino High School as the girls program gets ready for the playoffs and the rest of the season. But Coach Schrader, thank you very much for coming back on. I appreciate the Los Angeles shirt, regardless if it's the Sparks or the Lakers. I'm a huge LA fan, as some people might know. I'm from California. Much respect to the shirt and much respect to your coaching style. And I thank you again for coming on.
Appreciate you having me. I appreciate everything you've done too. Thank you.
Of course, Coach. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Flagstaff High School boys soccer coach Mike Jenkins on the other side of this break. Off the bench, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench. I am joined now by a familiar face of the program, the boys varsity coach over at Flagstaff High School for soccer. That is Coach Mike Jenkins. Coach Jenkins, welcome back onto the show.
Thank you for having us.
Well, we're happy to have you back. The Eagles right now are rolling quite well, sitting at number 4 in the conference, currently number 2 in the region, 6-1 overall. And Coach, we want to start out with this. How are you feeling about currently sitting at number 4? You guys looking to move up? Do you feel it's a good spot for you guys seating wise? How are you feeling about the season so far?
So, being ranked, it's always an honor to have the accolades that, we're sitting where we're at. Anytime that you're sitting in a place where you could make state, I think that obviously your team, that means they're working hard and you're doing the right thing. So right now sitting 4th is fantastic. Is there room improvement? Of course. Would you like to be ranked higher? Yeah, that's great. But that's up to the math and how that all works down in the valley. So we'll let that go for now. But we're feeling pretty good. We've the kids have been working hard. We're able to start getting some practices in, and start working on some of the things that we've been wanting to work on all season. And the kids are listening. They're taking the information that us as coaches are giving them, and they're executing the plan to the T right now. So I'm very proud of how the boys are working.
Yeah, as I mentioned, and they're playing quite well. 6-1 to start the season. The only loss coming against Prescott. You guys beat them last year, 1-0 in overtime. The year before, Prescott handed you guys the loss. Here in 2021, it was Prescott again getting the victory. So a very weird flip-flop between these two programs. An overtime loss this season, 2-1 to a very tough Prescott team that currently sits ahead of you guys in the region. They are at number 1 in the conference. But Coach, just kind of give me your thoughts about that game and how you feel your team performed.
Well, so the thoughts would be we just finished that tough win at Lee Williams. I was actually unable to travel for both the Lee Williams game and the Prescott game. So my assistant coach, Coach Nat Voorhees, had the helm on both of those games. And, he did a great job keeping the boys focused. Going into the Prescott, we knew this is how this has been going on for the last couple of years, kind of like you mentioned, was that, Coach Phil, it almost seems like whoever has the most seniors between both of us is the one that's going to take us. But, I knew Coach Phil would have his boys ready. It's at their house. and we came in, we got that first goal. Bennett had a nice, beautiful cross there. I think Johnny finished that. I was at home watching it on the big screen. Luckily they had it live stream, so I was able to watch it and yell from my chair at the screen the whole time. But power to Prescott, they kept fighting and they got that penalty kick right there at the end to tie it up. And then an excellent free kick there in the first part of the overtime to take it and then, hold on to it. Actually, I lost the feed right after that too. So I don't know what happened after the rest of the game. So I can't comment as to what went down, but kudos to Prescott. They're having a fantastic season and we know we're chasing them right now. And so, great game both ways. It could have gone either way.
I know, Coach, you weren't directly on the field during that game, but maybe we can speak more generally. When you face a team like Prescott, a team that's usually, they gave you guys a little bit of trouble a couple of years ago. Obviously, it's been close matchups whenever you guys play against each other. Whenever you lose a game to a tough opponent like that, is your mindset going, okay, here's what we did wrong, here's what we need to improve on when we see this team later in the season? Or is it kind of okay, we lost this game, I'm putting this in the back of my mind, we're moving on to the next one? What is your mentality after a loss like that to Prescott, 2-1 in overtime?
Anytime when we lose, we might call it losing, but I just call it we learned. We learned something, and we had to build on what what I was seeing through the game, and then taking that and seeing how we can improve and get better as a team. Like I said, we hadn't had many practices going into that first set of games there, and so we weren't really able to execute some of the things that I wanted to just because of practice time. And so since then, we've been able to make some tweaks and getting the boys to buy into to the system that we're working with them. And so they've been doing a good job. So yeah, it's always room for improvement when we lose. So you get to see where you're making the mistakes. And so we address that, and it's been good so far.
So, Coach, you're measuring the season by wins and learning opportunities, not wins and losses, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's what I tell the boys. We don't lose, we learn something. So yeah.
Okay. Since then, you guys have been absolutely rolling. The team has not lost a game since starting off with a big victory against Coconino earlier this month, 1-0. After that, it's just been win after win after win, shutting out opponents. Again, it's as of February 15th. You do have a game on Wednesday, the 17th. How have you guys, for me, for soccer, whenever I see somebody shut them out, I think defensively, this team is doing well defensively. So maybe it can be a little bit of a two-parter question here, Coach. During that 4-game stretch, how have you liked how your team has performed? And would you attribute that more to success defensively or success offensively?
So that's a good question. Basically, with the game of soccer, right, is that everyone plays offense, everyone plays defense. And so, right. Offensively, we've been able to, put the ball behind the back of the net. And we've been fortunate to, get more than one after that Coco game. That Coco game, that's always such a big rivalry between us, and the kids know each other because a lot of kids play together in the city just to begin with. And so we always know going in there that even though their record shows that they haven't had the best success, is that we know that Coach Kalani is going to have those guys fired up and ready to play us. And that's exactly what happened. They came out and played a heck of a game. And Izzy, the goalkeeper, we were actually just talking about that today at practice, is just how well of a game that he had against us. Cause I think, we outshot them. I can't even go over the numbers, but Izzy just had such a great game. And then we were able to get one in on just basically, just a small error that he made where he dropped the ball and it bounced off, and we were able to capitalize on that. But ever since then, offensively has been clicking. And then in defense, I give it to every single player that steps on the field to playing defense, because everybody's been working extremely hard. And so it just goes both ways. So we're able to put the goal in the back of the net, and then defensively, right, we're trying to shut people down and not allow them to score. And we've been having success doing that as well right now.
The Eagles carry a few seniors on the roster this year, 5 to be more specific, and there are 2 that really have been kind of a big part of this offense and defense, and that is the brothers Riley and Bennett Olsen-Zwick. I know they're not the only ones who've been contributing this season, but how have you liked their leadership and chemistry on the front line and the back line?
So with Bennett, he's just I mean, he's a soccer geek, if you want to call that. I mean, he studies the game. It seems he's always asking me, hey, did you see this? Did you see that? He probably watches more film than I do of things. And I don't know how he does it, because he's also carrying, straight A's in the classroom and getting it done. But offensively, he's just a great soccer player. He loves the game. He's very, very passionate, like I said. And I think he's just actually signed. Well, he hasn't signed yet, but I think he's committed to go play UC Davis in California. So that's pretty cool. And so, and he's having a really nice season, right? He's got the most points on the team. He's contributing, not only putting the ball in the net, but also assist. He's being a vocal leader up top too. And then his brother, he's very good. And he's also been like very patient in our program, kind of waiting behind Connor Kazan, like I was telling you. And our first time was that, here he is as a senior, and he's starting the games, and he's just doing a great job. He's absolutely just taken over that defensive responsibility, and couldn't be more proud of him and how he's handled himself on the field right now.
Coach, you also bring a freshman onto the varsity squad this year. Along with the freshman, who else has been standing out this season?
Daniel is our freshman. He starts out in the outside back for us, and his brother was Oscar and was a big center back for us. And so, he's just kind of going to carry that tradition. He's just a real calm young man and is getting it done, and taking it all in from what the upperclassmen are giving him, and they're treating him, like he's part of the team, of course, not just a freshman. And he's doing really well. And, just other than that, I mean, really the whole team the whole team has absolutely just stepped up. We knew that we had a lot of work to do going into this season, losing so many seniors last year. And these guys are just everyone's contributing. It's just every little part of it, even the kids that are, maybe not getting in the playing time, but it's them coming to practice every day and working really hard and making sure that the kids that are playing are, they're pushing them to the very edge. And so I would just kind of give it out, a big shout out just to the whole team, really.
I spoke with Coach Blair Hillig just a few moments ago on the show, and he was talking very much about the sort of cohesiveness of his team as well. And I had said that, for me to sort of just connect the two and make sort of a correlation is, when I look at solid teams in the NBA or the NFL or throughout the entire sports world, it is very much having those guys who fill those roles correctly. Excuse me. Well, my throat is a little caught in it now. It sounds like I'm choking up for some reason. But my point being, Coach, is that good teams, while they don't have all of the best scorers on their team, that every team's got good and bad players. When you get a squad that can have guys come off the bench and fill roles, more specifically, the San Antonio Spurs for the longest time would do that. They would draft guys. They would replace guys with free agents who could come in and fill roles. Steve Kerr in the 2003 NBA Finals, they needed a shooter. They brought him in. Robert Horry in 2005 as well. They're able to fill roles. And it seems like, Coach, your team has that. You guys have those players who are not going to be playing most of the game, but will get an opportunity. And when they come in, they fill their role. And it seems like it's starting to come together for you guys outside of that tough loss against Prescott. You guys have been rolling, and you've been finding those guys, as you said, who may not be having the most playing time, but when they are given that opportunity, they make the most of it.
Yeah. What's that football saying was next man up is kind of the motto that we're taking on, right? Is that someone goes down and, whoever I'm putting in there, it's next man up, and making sure, everyone knows their responsibilities. And as long as that, I mean, we have everyone is really talented on this team. And so it's just, if someone goes down, it just has to be the next person up and is doing that. And right now that's what they're doing. So it's been great.
Again, we were speaking with Flagstaff High School boys soccer coach Mike Jenkins. Coach, looking forward in the schedule. You guys have a tough battle against Cortez coming up on Friday. Then you finish out the rest of the region against Bradshaw Mountain this Saturday. That is February 20th and 19th, respectively. Anybody else going forward that you're looking forward to playing against?
Oh, we look forward to playing everyone. I like playing new teams that we haven't seen. Desert Edge, I don't think I've ever played them, so that'll be nice to see them here this week on Wednesday. And then, like you said, Cortez has been out of our division for a couple of years now. They're back in, and I know they're a talented team. We've had some nice matches against them, so I know they're going to bring their A game. up here on Friday. And then of course, like you said, we travel down to Bradshaw for our last region game. And, Bradshaw and us, we go back and forth, and we've had some great games with that team down there. And so, we know that going down there, they're going to be ready to play us. Everyone in this region, to be honest with you, has been an absolute battle. And nothing's come easy. We played that Mingus team on Saturday, and man, they're a good team. And I'm surprised, their record's not better. I saw that I think they lost to Greenway, which I was completely shocked. I think our region's actually really, really strong this year. Everyone's got their boys playing some good soccer for sure. So.
And, Coach, that seems to be the consensus with a few of the other coaches for other sports here in the 4A region that I've gotten to talk to so far, is they've kind of, the more of the trigger words that have popped up are surprising, tough competition. A lot of the teams, as you mentioned, for Mingus, the record may not show it, but they're playing some good soccer right now under their new head coach. It seems like the region, year in and year out, you never know who's going to be at the top, who's going to be at the bottom, who's going to jump out. Prescott, for example, last year, I believe they were 7-4. They're coming up right now undefeated in the region. It's very interesting, the 4A Grand Canyon region here, because you never know who's going to finish out at the top at the end of all of it.
Yeah, it's always a battle. I know that, we're always going to be competitive, and I know Phil's always going to keep those boys. And then I think, a lot of it just happens due to consistency, and I know, in Coach Kalani and Coconino, it's like he's been there forever, and he keeps those boys working hard. And it always surprises me that, their record isn't, better, and they play good teams, and they just seem to bring it for some games. And then for some reason, that's what Klein says, like, I don't know what happens, because they always have a very good team. And, even Mojave will all of a sudden like lose night. And I'm like, wait, it's going on, So, and I know they have a very talented team. So our region's strong. I like it. It's definitely very competitive. And so I appreciate those coaches and all the work that they're doing too, to make it a competitive thing. It helps us all out, I think, with PowerPoints too.
Yes, it does. And it makes the region even just more interesting, where you have a few teams at the top and maybe even a couple in the middle who are like, if this game had just gone one or this way for them, they would be right there at the top with us. So Absolutely. Always fun here in the 4A Grand Canyon region when it comes to soccer. Again, we were speaking with Flagstaff boys varsity head coach Mike Jenkins. Coach, the JV team is playing some great soccer right now. Suffered a tie at the beginning of the season against Mojave, but other than that, they've also been rolling and are currently undefeated as well. What have you liked from your lower levels?
Same thing, just consistency. There, Coach Campbell does a great job with them, and he just is real calm and just and has the kids just kind of try to enjoy the game. And we've had some kids that came out this year that have like really kind of shocked us, and because they haven't really played like at the club level at all, but they just go out there and play soccer, and so they've been doing good, and they just all seem to get along and mesh, and just buying into the system that we're trying to run. And I actually got to coach him this Mingus on Saturday, because Coach Campbell had some conflict on Saturday. So it was just fun just with the boys. They're just a bunch of great group of kids. And so, yeah, just enjoying them, and they're finding their success, and it's coming from all over the place. So it's pretty cool.
You kind of get an opportunity to see maybe some of the kids that you'll be coaching next season while you're getting that little trial run at the JV level. But Coach, one last question before we let you go. That JV program, is the focus there to just continue to develop soccer players fundamentally, or are you preparing them for that varsity level? When I played basketball at my alma mater, the JV program learned the varsity offense. It was very much a transition. You played varsity, then you played JV, then you moved up to varsity. Is the focus for the Flagstaff boys soccer JV program the fundamentals, or more for the preparation for that next level?
It's both. I think it's obviously the fundamentals, the little things that they've got to improve on. I always tell them too, it's like, you can't help your genetics at this time. You are who you are and your size, but you can always work on your different part of the game. And so you can always get better on that. And then, hopefully God-given talents, you'll get to be the size that you want. But, we have these little tiny kids on there as freshmen, but I always tell them one day, I'm like, look, you are going to be a big boy at some point, but you can't help yourself right now. But the fundamentals are good. But yeah, we are trying to get them focused in on our system and have them ready. And you talk to some kids, and especially those that are the sophomores, and it's like, hey, next year, right, this is your opportunity. So put in the work, watch the games that we're playing. We try to require that the kids, unless there's some other factor is that the kids stay after and watch our games all the time to kind of get a feel for what it looks like at the, the varsity level. So yeah, a little bit of both.
All right. Well, there he is, Flagstaff boys varsity coach Mike Jenkins. The Eagles have 2 matchups coming up this weekend, one on Friday against Cortez and then on Saturday against Bradshaw Mountain. Should be a lot of fun. Coach, thank you very much for coming on the show. Best of luck on the rest of the season. We look forward to bringing you back when we get closer to that wonderful playoff time.
Yeah, thank you for having us again. And go Grand Canyon region for sure.
Very much so. We're going to take a break. When we come back, more sports for you on the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation, right here on Verde Valley TV and KVNA 104.7 FM. I'm your host, Philip Catafamo. As I mentioned at the top of the show, the AIA met earlier this week to discuss the remainder of the winter season, the upcoming spring season, and of course next fall. And here's what happened. Regarding the winter season, the AIA did vote to allow more fans to attend winter season home games. However, the districts will have to check first with local health officials to determine the amount of fans that can attend the games. As we know, there are some schools that are currently allowing some fans, mostly parents. There are some districts like Flagstaff that are not allowing any fans, but regardless, this is a good step forward into allowing more fans in the stands. As we know, what are sports without their fans? Also for the winter season, the mask mandate will remain in place for the remainder of the winter season regular schedule, as well as the playoff schedule. In terms of if that mask mandate will follow into the spring, we will have to wait until after March 1st. The AIA will reconvene and discuss if we will have masks during the spring season, as I mentioned, after March 1st, and we will, of course, have that update for you when it is officially announced. As for the spring season continuing here, there were a couple other changes. The board voted to not allow spring teams to compete in regular season tournaments or invitationals. This will allow for teams to not have to pause if there's a COVID issue or not have to delay the season any further. They will have a regular scheduled season for the spring season. Practice is going to start March 1st. The initial start date for the season got pushed back from the 15th to the 12th, or pushed forward. I'm not really sure how that works, but it was originally the 15th. Now it's the 12th, which is a great sign for spring sports. Getting kicked off sooner is definitely better, as we saw with the winter and fall seasons. It had to get delayed severely, but thankfully, and for right now, the spring season is looking like it will kick off on time on the 12th, which is some really, really good news. As for the fall, there were some changes for the fall season. First and foremost, we will not see too many reclassifications, which means we won't see too many teams leaving regions or conferences going from 4A to 5A, 2A to 3A. You get it. We won't see that. Teams will more than likely stay where they are at for now. If a school wants to appeal, they can, as we see that in a normal year. Schools can appeal their reclassification. If they feel like they're struggling in the 3A, they want to go back down to 2. Again, you get it. But the reclassification, more than likely, we won't see too much movement. But if we do, we will make sure to let you know. Also, for the fall season, some really good news for football. 2A and 3A will delay the start of their season just to kind of give a little bit of a cushion for COVID. So they're going to get kicked off with practice on August 2nd. They will play a full 10-game regular season schedule. Their playoffs will start on the 5th of November, and their season should end November 26th and 27th. For our larger conferences, the 4A, the 5A, and the 6A, their season will also be delayed by 2 weeks, again, just to kind of give a little bit of a cushion. Then the conferences will begin practicing on August 9th, and then they will play their 10-game schedule, as I mentioned, from August 27th to November 12th, and then their playoffs will kick off November 17th, and the entire winter season should be done December 10th and 11th. Again, if there are any changes between now and then, we will have them for you right here on Off the Bench. I'd like to thank all my guests for coming on the show this week. I'd like to thank you for watching and listening. We've got a great show in store for you next week right here on Off the Bench. I'm Philip Katafamo, wishing you a great rest of your week. We'll see you next time.